Paul, can you talk? Can you just elaborate a little bit on the port? You've mentioned communication a couple of times now, and maybe the importance of presenting your idea or your project. Did you have a moment in during your studies where you realized, like, shit, I need to get better at that, and it's a really important thing?
I don't know. I think I've always think I've got to get better. Even now I still don't really. I'll maybe elaborate on it later if you want. But I had a bit of a meltdown earlier in the year, a bit of a breakdown, and through my therapy, I've been like, I still don't think I'm good enough. So I'm always still trying to get better at things. But I think when I was at uni, the portfolio thing, I think I always remember one of the tutors saying, is it a tutor or it might have been a visiting design lecturer, maybe, I can't remember. Anyway, it was, your portfolio is only as good as its worst page. And I think that stuck with me. You've got to be so brutally honest with yourself and ruthless. Don't put everything in. Again, it's like that wheel presentation I was saying about, you've got to think, okay, someone's going to be flicking through this, whatever page they end up on, because they're not going to read it front to back. I've had, obviously had a lot of portfolios sent my way over the time, and you don't, unless you're in a really quiet period, you're not going to read it. So it's clear, punchy information, and if I open it on a crap page of sketches that I'm not really happy with, you've put the sketches in because you've done them, not because they're worthwhile. You've put it because I'm really proud that I've done that. I've done so much work. Look how much work I've done. That's your natural instinct, is to be proud of and show what you've done. But actually, if those sketches aren't any good or don't show an idea properly, they shouldn't be in there. And it's being sort of trying to be honest with yourself, and send it to, if you've got friends, maybe even friends who aren't even in the industry, is probably a good thing. I've never actually done that, but I've only just thought about that now. But if you sent it to someone who doesn't know anything about the industry, what do they think? Do they understand the idea? Because okay, you're applying for an internship or a job with a portfolio to a design director, but when you're there, as a designer, you have to present not just to design directors. Well, certainly in my experience, you have to present your ideas to, whether it's marketing or people of like finance director. There's a bunch of directors to sign off an idea, so they don't necessarily know all the jargon. They don't know the background. They just need to know if it's a good idea or not. So I think with your portfolio, it's probably quite a good acid test to see if people understand it. But your portfolio is only as good as your worst page.
Very, very, very good advice. Paul, I want to ask you about your path as an predominantly an exterior guy. Was this just the thing that seduces most of us in saying, like, I want to be an exterior designer only?
It's funny, I think it's what comes naturally to me, because as a kid, that's what you copy cars and you draw cars, and that's just what for me, that's how I've come about my career, is that I've been drawing cars, drawing exteriors. But I remember in Northumbria, one of the tutors saying, there's a demand for interior designers, there's not as much design for exterior designers. So I was like, ooh, okay, I must do that. So my final project for Northumbria was an interior. It was a Mercedes, future luxury Mercedes interior. I hadn't done an interior before that. So it probably wasn't the best decision, because I didn't do any clay modelling. It was all hard modelling, and so I missed out on clay modelling at Northumbria because I chose to do an interior, because I thought that was the thing to do. Someone told me there aren't many interiors. Oh, I've got to do that. It wasn't really where my heart was at. And halfway through it, I think, probably looking back, I probably realised, maybe I should have done an exterior, but it was too late. So I still obviously, put everything into it and did it. But then RCA, I think you're encouraged to do both at RCA, and then finally at McLaren, you have to do both. It was such a small team. You end up doing both, and certainly Rob Rob Melville, who's design director there now, he very much is a believer and encourages doing both interior and exterior. It gives you so much of a broader understanding of problem solving. Exteriors are difficult, with in terms of packaging and making things look great over a tight package or aerodynamics or whatever, crash safety. But interiors are mind bending. The amount of complexity and trying to get a load of products basically to gel together into one sculpture. I wouldn't say I'm a particularly good interior designer, but I have done one, and it's such a good learning experience for understanding how components go together. Just not just visually. I'm talking in terms of technically as well. It's a really, really good learning experience. So yes, I guess I am predominantly exterior biased, but I think it's important to be able to do both. So it's a really good experience. I'd highly recommend if anyone's an exterior designer and they think, I'm just an exterior designer, if you get the opportunity, do an interior, because it is so good for learning.
Do you think that you can, as an exterior designer, that you can just get a bit caught up, or not caught up, but your lack of empathy is just like kind of like, I want to raise the belt line and I don't give a shit about what happens inside.
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Empathy is a great word and a great, that for that reason alone, you should do it. Think about your teammates, that's the other thing that really, I think I'm quite a nice person, and I think I've got a fair bit of empathy, but it's probably because I've done various projects. But some people are just like, they don't give a shit. At the end of the day, you are a cog in a team. It's not all about you. You are a cog in a big machine. And that's the thing about car design. So much of the time, it's like, such and such designed that car. No, well, they might have had the theme, but the amount of people that go into designing a car, it's not ever about one person. That really pisses me off. Yes, it might have been it was okay. My theme for P1 and my theme for the front end and sort of lower body side of 720, but it was Rob's sort of canopy and upper. It was Pete Wilkins' back end, and that was the themes. But then the amount of people that whether it's the designers, whether it's the clay modelers, the cast modelers, color materials, it's such a massive team effort. I don't know what I'm talking about. I've gone off on a rant now, but it's never one person.
Empathy.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so doing an exterior, if you've done an interior, you understand that the view out is super important. Like you say, belt line, or the screen rail, A-pillar positions. God, changing the A-pillar position. I'm an exterior designer. I'm just going to move the A-pillar a bit because it looks better. Fucking hell, that changes everything on the interior, and you're just like, you've just made everyone's heads explode and you don't give a shit. So
I've seen a lot of that. Yeah. Wow. So you were the lead on the P1, is that right?
Yeah. So there was only two of us there. So yeah, I guess being a lead is a bit of a stretch because it was only me on the exterior. My theme basically got picked. It was myself and Rob. So Rob was senior designer at the time. I'd come in as junior, and we worked really closely together on the exterior themes. And my theme got picked. And although he was the interior as his interior designer. He massively helped me on the exterior as well. So guiding me, because I was obviously really naive and green behind the ears. But we managed to keep the theme and just develop it. And he really helped in terms of proportions and line quality and all those key skills that you just don't get taught I didn't get taught at uni. Proportion, and then just quality of line. Your lead in. I didn't know what lead in was. How
I didn't know that. Yeah.
So what gives good quality design, and applying that to your theme. So he helped me massively with all that. And then we took it up to design freeze. So we didn't do the production surfacing and production design. That was handed over to Lawrence Cutts. So he sort of, he's a really good designer as well. He was there as took it through to production. So, but it pretty much kept. He managed to maintain everything. So yeah, I look back at that car now, and I love the concept. Still love the back end. You know, I think that was really one of my proudest moments doing that back end. But there's elements on it that I just wish I could just do it. I would love to do that car again, not change it. I just love to do it again because there's so many bits that I look back now and they're quite naive. I think hopefully I'm the only one who sees them. I'm sure many other people are saying, "Well," but yeah, it's a cool project.
Paul, what's quite interesting, again, you know, whatever you can't say is totally fine, and you must just speak up. But when you're designing a car like that, obviously there is so much, like, from a technical standpoint that needs to be taken into consideration.
Definitely,
and at some point, like, you know, aero gets involved, and engineering and all that sort of stuff. All of those things kind of need to be considered, like, kind of from the get-go. But it's kind of like what came first, you know, the chicken or the egg. You know, it's like you've got this theme, and then is it a case of your boss says, I think that could work really well. And are you working with those hardcore aerodynamicists, for example, like from the get-go?
Yeah. And I'd say my only other experience of a design studio was my internship at Toyota. So I can't really speak for how it's done in other companies, but all I know is that at McLaren, that was what I loved about it. It was full on design. It wasn't styling. It wasn't, just kind of, as someone says, cake decorating, which is really, really offensive. So sorry about that. But it's you're working with the engineers, the aerodynamicists, right from the get-go. We got given a basic package, which was the same wheelbase as the 12C that had just been launched. We knew basically the brief was design the best, most beautiful, fastest car around a track in the world. Basically, build the best fucking car you can. And we were obviously me and Rob were new, really enthusiastic. We wanted to, the 12C had been launched to a very lukewarm reception. It's actually quite a good looking car now. I think it's, very classically designed, but it wasn't.
It's one of my favorite. I really like
it's a beautiful car, but it wasn't very groundbreaking. So we're like, right, we've got an opportunity here to create something. And working with the engineers, that's what I was going to say. It's not a chicken or egg situation there. It certainly wasn't then. You were working together as a cycle. It's so fluid. They're literally next door in the next office. So like through a set of double doors, you're into the aero guys, the engineers, and you've got people working in the studio. We had Lewis Hamilton's championship winning car in the studio. So we're looking at all these like crazy aero things. We're thinking, what do these do? So you just go next door and sort of ask the aero guys, what do these bits do? And that sort of informs what you're sketching. You really need to understand when you're designing a supercar. Again, that's my only experience, so apologies. But you have to understand what the car is going to be doing. I think it's like any product. You need to understand the end goal. If you're just designing it to look nice, that's not really design. In my view, that's not really design. You really have to understand a product's use. And for a supercar, it's going bloody quick around a track and cooling, 1,000 horsepower. So there's a lot of cooling. There's a lot of aerodynamic pressures on the car. And so when I was sketching in the early, again, I had a little bit of technical knowledge, but, it's just common sense. Using common sense was good. What's the air going to be doing? If you imagine you're the air, where are you going to go? That sort of thing. So we were kind of sketching around that, came up with a few ideas. And in fact, the cooling for the P1, I thought I was looking at old Group C cars, kind of old Porsche 356s and, sorry, it's not 356, 956, not a 356.
Four-cylinder, high performance,
No, the old Group C Porsches and the old sports prototypes, and they had these intakes on the shoulders. And I was thinking, that's pretty cool. I wonder if we can I'll do something like that. So I tried this theme, and I basically was taking the air through the shoulders. We've got a really tight cabin because it's a really low frontal area, so tight cabin, which in some ways looks a bit peaky, not particularly traditional supercar, but it's quite race car-y. I wonder if we can take air over the shoulders. And I remember the aero guys going, no, that's not going to work. And then we tried the early CAD model. It was all open on the sides as well. So again, I'm going to get way too geeky. Sorry, but all the turbulent air that comes out the front wheel arch is terrible for cooling on a side-mounted radiator. So you've got to try and keep your airflow above the axle line. So the 12C actually didn't cool very well. It got a lot of turbulent air. Never overheated, but it wasn't efficient. So when you're up in the power, you need really efficient cooling. So we basically did this model, and it worked kind of okay. And then the aero guy was like, oh, cool, that worked. Okay, what if you cover in the side? So that's when we ended up with a theme where you literally, that carbon body side is the almost the outside of the duct. So the duct goes in, and that it created amazing cooling, but it also, I thought, we thought as a team, thought it created a really interesting visual story, so you can literally see where the air's going. So it kind of created a really new aesthetic that we didn't think had been done before. And yeah, it was like this kind of, you're peeling layers away from the car, and you can see all the inner workings, and you can see the airflow. So that's kind of a cool, exciting thing to develop.
That's fascinating. I'm just way too stupid to understand all of that.
It's funny though, when you're there and you're exposed to those, these amazingly, incredibly clever people. I don't necessarily have to know exactly why it happens, or I'm nowhere near clever enough to work out the stresses and strains and all the incredible work that the engineers and aero guys do. But as having an understanding of it, it kind of, again, just using a bit of common sense, and when you're exposed to it, it's infectious, and I think you start to understand it, and then you can design around that. So, did
you ever feel like totally out of your depth with regards to dealing with those guys? Yeah,
all the time.
And how was there somebody that said, "Listen, don't worry, Paul, everything's going to be all right. We're gonna take you through this"?
I guess the other thing is that I've never been afraid of asking questions. So if someone's explaining something in an engineering meeting and I don't understand it, I'll put my hand up and say, and you'll find that there's a lot of people. I always remember that was something I learned from school. Never be afraid to ask, because more than likely there's another 6 people who are thinking the same, thinking, what does that mean? So I'd quite often just ask, and actually that massively helps.
I think it's also brilliant. I think it's really, really good advice.
It's a simple thing, but I
think there's obviously this fear of coming across stupid.
There's a fear of I should know. Why do I not know that? Or there's a fear of you thinking people are going to judge me. They're going to judge me for. I still feel that a bit, but I don't worry too much about it. I don't take myself too seriously. It probably helps. But I think if you got that fear of expectation of what people are going to think of me, and I'm going to go off a bit of a tangent now, but again, it's something that I sort of learnt through my therapy, was that I don't want to be all preachy.
No. It was, you need to.
He said that you see all these professional athletes, and it's the same with designers. You see these people who are at the top of their game, and they are like just incredible. But you don't see all the hard work that goes in behind it, and all the kind of really down to earth hard work that goes into the training for a professional athlete. You don't see all the times they fail. You don't see the times they're hurting or whatever, or they're struggling. It's the same with becoming I think a successful designer. All you see is the beautiful sketches at the end that are, in auto and design or on a website or a blog or whatever, or on Instagram. You just see these amazing fun things. You don't see the pain and the kind of heartache that goes into them. So I think it's understanding that no one's perfect, and no one's a natural born superstar. I don't think. I think everyone has to put in massive amount of effort, and you only show, like I said before in the portfolio thing, you only show your best work, but it doesn't mean that you've had a massive struggle to get there. Everyone's human. Even the big flashy design directors, they're all human as well. They've all been there.
Well, it's easy to forget that, because you always only see the highlight reel. It is
definitely.
Literally like,
Same with bloody Instagram.
Instagram,
same,
yeah. Fuck Instagram, yeah.
I wish I could get off it, but I'm addicted to it.
I know, it's horrible. It's out of control. It's difficult. It's difficult.
Yeah.
Paul, the $1 million question: why do you walk away from your dream job as a fucking supercar designer for one of the seminal brands in the world to do this other thing? Which is also fucking great, by the way. But that's the question.
Man, it's it was, I guess, probably a long time coming. So it's an immense amount of pressure and stress. And I think even I look back now, even studying, the amount of pressure and stress that you put on yourself to succeed. It goes right back to when I started, well, even at school, but at uni, and then being in, McLaren is like a pressure pot. There's no let off. Even the kind of quiet times were pretty full on, and it got so much, got so hard, and I had a bit of a breakdown earlier in the year. This time last year, sort of February last year, and I was signed off for 2 months. So that was a really tough, really dark moment. And I don't want to get all preachy, but people don't talk about it especially in car design. It's like, oh, I've got to get at this level, I've got to be here, and it's so cool and like macho to be working hard, working all night. I did this, I worked all this. It's not healthy. And I've been through I think a lot of people have been through some tough times. Probably people have been through a lot worse times than me, but it was super hard. And then obviously Corona happened, and I was furloughed, and then and then I got there was a load of massive redundancies at McLaren, and I got laid off, and it was like it was the best thing that happened to me. It was weird. I was kind of hoping I was going to be, and then I was also thinking, shit, I'm not going to have a job, and how am I going to get a job? And it's been my dream job, but I was so happy to. It was like a release. I've been this pressure pot for so long that I've got to achieve, and the levels are so high. And I think I'd recommend everyone having a break. It's if you're feeling overwhelmed or it's easy for me to say, because I managed to, obviously find the artwork to fall back on. That started as a bit of therapy, and then I've just built it into a business. But a break is so important, to have some time out, because you're only human. You can't maintain that level forever. If you can, I guess, you're a bigger, stronger human than I am. But I finally had to admit defeat. And my wife had been telling me, you need to have a sabbatical, you need to have some time off, for years before it happened, because I obviously had some pretty close moments where I was mega stressed. But take a break, and the break's been great for me. I'm feeling really good. I've got a lovely balance in my life now, and I'm missing design. I'm missing people, but I guess everyone's missing people now, because everyone's doing Zoom meetings because of COVID. But I don't miss the stress at all. I'm working hard still, because I've got a lot of work to do, but it's at my own pace. So I'm at the moment I'm really happy. So it's good.
Paul, it's incredibly brave and important to talk about these things so candidly. And is literally, dare I say, this is arguably the first time somebody's talked about this on camera. It's easy for the right post to come along on LinkedIn and post it, but it's not nobody's spoken about it in the personal way that you have. So I really have to take my hat off to you, dude, because it takes a lot, and I've been through a similar experience as well, but it was prior to being in the business,
Yeah.
So
well, that's it. I mean, I think so many people go through these. It's part of life, I guess. But there's so many people that have been through, and you don't realise. Before I didn't know anyone. I didn't think I knew anyone who'd had a breakdown or been through some really tough times, and it was weird. Because I thought I need to get fixed. I knew I felt broken, and that's what I said to him. I feel broken, and he was like, "That's a weird thing to say." And I thought, right, I need a fix because, I guess I think in terms of when you're at work, you've got to solve a problem. There's always a fix. Or if you break your arm, it takes 6 weeks to fix. And your mind's not like that. I now realise I still don't feel quite right. I don't think I'll ever be right ever again. But it was something happened in there that, I just feel I feel a different person. And it's not nice. It's not a nice experience to go through. But you do. In other ways, I feel stronger as well. So you come out. If you have a bad experience, it's how you get back up again, isn't it? I think no matter what it is, whether you lose someone or whether you have a bad experience with something, it's how you get back up again. And maybe that's what it's about. Maybe it's okay. I feel different. I don't think I'll ever be the same. But maybe that's just part of life. And maybe you do you do change, don't you, as you grow older. Getting very philosophical now.
No, but again, it's super important. I mean, I just have a question, with regards to the kind of aftermath of this process. Did you have a sense of not being able to trust people after this moment? Because I the reason why I asked that is that I remember when after I kind of also had my grand failure, if you want to call it that, I also saw success in many respects. I had this feeling of people around me were kind of trying to suss out what's going on with the madman sort of thing, and you feel the sense of I don't want to give too much away because they're just going to use it against me. Did you feel that Did you feel that at all?
I don't think so. I think my experience was probably quite unique in that, like I said, I was off work. I was really worried about going back to work and what people were going to think of me. But then COVID happened and everyone was furloughed. Pretty much. A couple of people were sort of kept on to keep projects going, but projects were put on pause. We were all furloughed, so actually, I didn't actually have to get back to work and what people are going to think. Now I feel strong enough that I'd be able to go back, and I'm comfortable talking about it. I mean, I was quite open from the start, which I think helped. I spoke to people and told people what had happened quite early on. But it's been a strange situation that I haven't had to go back into that world again. I still don't know if I'll really be able to do it. I think I'll be all right, but you never know. You're always self-doubting and thinking, am I good enough still? Has something happened to me that I'm not going to be able to do it again? But you're never going to know until you try again. So at some point I'll probably try again, but weird situation, but very lucky as well. Like I say, it was the break I needed. So
Paul, tell me about your transition into doing what you're doing now. So you said that you initially started, was it these watercolors specifically?
Watercolor, aquarelle painting. And I just did it as a bit of therapy. I'd not done any painting since I was at school.
So this was the first time that you were doing something like that?
Yeah. So I'd obviously, I use chart pack markers at work, and they're obviously very wet, very fluid. I always thought they're kind of like watercolors, and it'd be a nice thing to try. Even at school, I didn't really use watercolors. I used acrylic paint, but the way I sort of do my airbrushing is quite fluid, quite sketchy. So I've always fancied having a go at it, but just never had the time. So I was like, well, I'll give it a go. So bought some paints, bought some paper, and so it was nice. It's something to take my mind off everything and just kind of zone in, and it was great for just zoning out and doing something different. And it then developed a bit more, and I was really enjoying drawing the cars and working, even learning more about light and shade and whatever, that you think you know it, but actually when you're really studying something, learning about why you gave it a bit. Sorry, I'm bumbling around. But,
no, it's okay.
You have an insight into why things were designed the way they were. So it almost gives you an insight into other designers' eyes. How, when you're drawing something, you understand. Oh wow, that lines up with that. That indexes with that. That proportion is a bit weird. Like you're thinking, it doesn't look right, and then you measure it and you think, okay, that's why it's like that. So that was kind of cool. But one of the biggest things was actually I did somebody asked me to do a painting for them, and the joy that it gave them when I gave them this painting I was like, wow, that's a really cool feeling for me.
Was this a watercolor as well?
Yeah, so it's one of my watercolors I gave to someone, and it's like they were so stoked with it, and that was a really nice feeling. So I was like, oh, that's cool. So then just sort of started doing a few more, and I just started setting up my Instagram page, and it sort of snowballed. And I've been lucky. I've had a couple of breaks, I guess, probably because of my background of where I've worked. But I've been in a couple of magazines and done a few bits and bobs. So yeah, it's been great, and I'm pretty much working at it. I am working at it full time, and I'm booked up till like April. So it's I've got plenty to do.
How do you switch off from that? I mean,
it's a bit of an issue, but because I enjoy it so much and it's not a particularly stressful thing, I still do find it therapeutic.
No, but I'm talking about like, your wife going, fuck sakes, Paul, you've been doing this shit all week now. Can you please pay attention to the kids?
She's amazing. She's so understanding. But it's great because I'm not doing it like flat. It's not like being in a job where you're like, right, start at 8, finish at 6, 7, 8 o'clock or whatever, which is stupid hours that designers do and modelers and whatever. I'm able to go, right, okay, I'm going to have breakfast with the kids. I'm going to have lunch with the kids. I'm going to take the kids out. We'll all go out for a family walk or family bike ride, and I'll just work a bit in the evening. So it's so flexy. That's what I'm loving. I can not do anything during the day, and then I know, crap, I've got my schedule. I know I've got to get this done. So I'll work late, or I'll just mix it around a bit and kind of maybe I'll work at the weekend like this. I haven't finished one last week because I went out on my bike and did a few other bits and bobs, but I know I've got to finish it, but that's okay. I'll just do it at the weekend. So it's kind of hard to switch off from it in that it's always there. I think when I've never worked from home before, never thought it was possible to work as a designer from home. So I think the not being able to escape from it and switch off is a bit of an issue, but like I say, it's not particularly stressful. So it kind of works. I get pissed off with myself still. I think, like I say, like I've still put so much pressure on myself. I want everything I think naturally we as creative people, you want everything to be perfect, don't you? Nothing's ever perfect, but if I get angry, if I can't get the perspective quite right, on watercolor, it's like, 2 or millimeter thick paper, you can't trace it. So you're like doing everything freehand and it doesn't look right, and you rub it out and you've almost got through blah. You have to start it again. That's been hard. That's been quite a good lesson, actually, starting things again, not getting too precious.
You can't put another layer on.
What's that?
You can't just do another layer in like a Photoshop.
You can't undo. There's no Control Z.
Control Z.
Bloody so hard. So that's been a bit of a learning curve as well. But as like I say, trying not to be too precious. I am very precious about my work, and I always have been. That's been one of my faults. Is so precious about my work. I admire people who are just, quite carefree and like la 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 la. But I have to tell myself to relax and free up, and that's when the magic happens when you're free. You got good tunes going on, and you're loose. If you're uptight, I was finding myself actually with doing the watercolors. I'd be really uptight and I can't get it, and I'd be getting really pissed off myself. My wife would be like, "Right, go out, go. You're stressed. I'm fine. I can do this. I just need to do it again." "No, you're not fine. Go." So I'd then get my kit on, go off mountain biking, and I come back, and I just come back a different person. And I think if and when I do go back to work, that's something I'm going to have to sort of remember and try and teach myself to do. Find a way of doing it at work, getting out. I think that's really important. If you are uptight and you are stressed, getting away from everything, even for half an hour, just helps you reset. And it's very easy to say and think and give the advice, but to actually do it and listen is a bit harder.
Well, that's what I was going to say. We all know that. We've heard it said a million
Doesn't matter how many times
before,
you hear it.
But it's so tempting to just go like, I just want to sort this out and then I will go. And it's
the worst thing.
Worst thing. Paul, when I have to say that when I look at your watercolors specifically, it looks like it's just fucking effortless, and it's like almost mechanical, like you don't even have to think about it. I mean, but what you're saying would suggest otherwise.
I mean, I guess the experience that I've gained over the years, it does come naturally to me. So I wouldn't say it's effortless, but I do enjoy doing it, and there is kind of a flow that comes out. It does takes a lot of concentration to do it, and understanding, especially if you're not. Sometimes I do just kind of copy from a photograph, but others, I'm making a client's car, their car, so I've got to change the color, change the angle, change the lighting conditions to so you kind of you're leaning on your experience as a designer and visual communication from that point of view to put it into the painting. So yeah, I wouldn't say it's effortless, but it comes naturally now, so which is nice. But thank you very much for saying so. It's very kind.
That's okay. No, it's genuine. I mean, it looks like you had gone to I don't know, a fine art course, that somebody had said
I booked myself on. At the start of the pandemic, I booked myself onto a watercolor course because I thought there's got to be. It's like thinking you're a car designer and you can therefore I can do architecture, and you can't. It's a different discipline. So I was thinking, I'm sure there's some. I could have a go at it, but I'm sure there's some tricks of the trade that I need to learn about, and I still think there probably are. But I didn't. I booked onto a course, and then the pandemic happened, and I couldn't do the course. So I've just kind of self-taught myself, and it's just kind of happened. Hard work, but it's worked out.
Paul, the main part of your business, is it these commissions or is it the prints that you? The
main part's the commissions, yeah. So that's what I'm doing sort of day in day out is our commissions for people, their pride and joy, or that maybe their dad's old car that they had when they were a kid, or whatever. So that's the main part, and then I've just been sort of trying to sell a few prints on the side, but that was just to kind of give a bit more, I guess, a bit of access to other people to the artwork. So yeah,
really, really cool. Paul, I think I've just got one last question for you, really. Well, I mean, it's up to you where you go with this, but advice for young kids starting out, wanting to become a car designer, what would your advice be?
I'd say, I guess like I was saying earlier, it is a hard world out there. So you kind of be honest with yourself. If you don't think you're good enough, you can get good enough with enough hard work and effort and practice. It's practice. And whether it's drawing ellipses or whether it's understanding light and shade. So maybe don't just draw cars all the time. Do life drawing. Try some. Now with after doing my watercolors, try some painting. Try oils. But really understand light and shade in terms of visual communication. Work. Just kind of see what's out there. Work hard. Don't copy. I think that's a really important one. Don't just, I've seen a really cool sketch on Instagram, I'm gonna copy that. That's not design. The creative thinking, what I got taught at Northumbria, and then at the RCA, but mostly Northumbria, that's what they were my foundations that I built on really for creativity. And I kind of pride myself on trying to think differently and create things that are different, not for the sake of it. Having a good reason. Don't just do something batshit crazy that's got no reason for being. Have a reason behind what you do, and you can do that if you're doing a personal project. Do the research, do the thinking, and then explain it in a succinct way, you'll get there if you sort of work hard at it.
Paul, that was absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks for being so honest and open, and it's the things that you've talked about are invaluable. So thank you.
No, thank you very much for inviting me on. It's a pleasure. I must admit, I was quite scared about coming on because obviously there's all these not heeding my own advice, all these megastars, like Anders Warming and that, and I'm thinking, oh crap, how am I gonna live up to this? I've got a shitty 80s house that we haven't decorated, we haven't sort of done any work to, so I've got a shitty background.
Well, it's not.
I've been out of work for a year. What we're going to talk about, but no, it's been a real pleasure. It's been really nice. It's been great.
It's not all rock stars, We also
we're all human. I should listen to my own advice. We're all human.
Exactly.